Hey guys, this is AI Gaming 1776 and I'm playing Doom on launch night with an R9 390. Now what I want to do is talk to you guys about 1080p performance and 1440p performance. I'd like to give you my first impressions. So far it's been pretty good, but I'm still in the first hour of the game. But I still feel like I've got enough under my belt here to talk about first impressions, so that's what we're going to do. Now we're using a camcorder because the monitor that you're looking at is a 1440p monitor. I don't have 1440p capture devices. They don't exist. You can't buy them. And I don't record gameplay with the same computer I play on because I want to show you the best possible, most realistic footage that I can when it comes to performance. So we are using a camcorder. Now what I did do is I made the numbers here really big, like comically big, but not take up too much space on the screen. The top row is the GPU temperature, and yes, it's hot. We'll get to that in a minute. The core speed for the GPU, which is 1050. It's an overclocked Asus Strix R9 390, which is why it runs so hot. For some reason, these are just hot running cards. I can do a custom fan profile in MSI Afterburner, and I've done that. And I can lower that GPU temp by 10 or 15 degrees, but it makes the fans even louder. And let me shut up for a second so you can hear how loud the fans already are. That's the fans on that GPU. It's ridiculous. I have a 390 and a 390X, both Asus Strix because they were red and they matched my build. But I kind of have regrets. It's a loud card. All right, moving on. The VRAM usage is that second line, and then we have the it looks like it's OGL right there for the frame rate, which is interesting. Very interesting. All right. Anyway, I don't see any when we go into the settings, I don't see anything that lets you choose your API for graphics. I'll put it like that. I hadn't noticed that OGL till just now. I was like, wait a minute. All right, moving on again. I have an i7-4790 processor, so those are my 8 threads, and then there's system RAM down there. Now, I have it looking at the ground so you guys can get a beat on those numbers, because once I start moving around, it's not going to be as easy for you to see those numbers. Now, we are playing in 1440p, and the game looks amazing. We are 2 settings away from having the game maxed out, all right? And it looks great in 1440p. Now, the real frame rate that you get does go down into the 50s. All right, don't get it twisted. Will not be this 80 frame rate that you see in this section right here. But like real combat frame rate will go below 60, but still, for 2 clicks from maxed out, it's amazing. All right, so the anti-aliasing is TSSAA 8 times. I guess that's 8 times 8TX. Here's the thing, I have even turned this all the way off, the anti-aliasing, and I don't see a big enough difference in frame rate to care. I'll put it like that. I'm going to have, like I said, these are first impressions. I'm going to have to really scrutinize it, but I went to FXAA, and I'll put it like this. This game has a wild bottom frame rate and high frame rate, okay? It can go anywhere between... At 1440p with these settings, it can go anywhere from 50 to maybe 80, 90. In 1080p, it can go from 60 to maybe 120. Right? It just depends on the area. It seems like this does have an impact on the frame rate, the anti-aliasing. It seems like it does have an impact on the frame rate, but not a meaningful one when you're playing the game. Do you see what I mean? So it's going to take a lot more studying to figure that out. So let's go into advanced. It says custom, but if shadow quality were on high, we would be at the ultra preset. I started at the ultra preset. I put shadow quality on high. Let me show you why. Let's put it on ultra. Now the thing about the ultra preset is that itself is 1 click away from being maxed out. All you got to do is go down to anisotropic filtering and go to 16. Now you're maxed out. Which, with this graphics card, the anisotropic filtering does affect the frame rate. Does it with NVIDIA? I have no idea. I haven't had a chance to test it yet. But you see what I mean? This right here, yeah, that only goes up to high. The directional occlusion quality only goes up to high. So, right now, the Ultra preset itself is 1 click away from being maxed out. And all we did was take shadows from Ultra to high at the start of this video. But for sake of argument, we're going to start the video in the Ultra preset We're going to go out this door and you'll see why we turn the shadows down. All right. We're already down into the 50s for the frame rate. You can kind of see the fraps counter there. You can see the OGL there. Okay, now we're into the 40s. See, once you're actually out here where there's fighting going on, we're in the 40s and the 50s. Now we're at 57, now we're at 62, now we're at 52, now we're at 49, now we're at 45. Okay? All you got to do is take your shadows from ultra, put them down to high, which again, you're only 2 clicks from maxing the game out in 1440p, and boom, we are going to more or less stay in the 50s to the 70s. All right? It's very nice, very smooth, it's very beautiful. Before I go any further, I need to give you one caveat though. I've used an R9 380, an R9 390, I've done 1080p, I've done 1440p. I've played for more than an hour, okay? I've played for about maybe 3 hours. But where I'm at in the game is only an hour in, to give you clarification. Alright, but here is the caveat. Vertical sync, VSync, has to be off, alright? VSync has to be off. For even at 1080p with an R9 390, even when the R9 390 is getting 80 frames per second with VSync off, even in that circumstance, what you will run into is a 30 frames per second situation. Alright, now why that is, I have no idea. Alright, this game hates VSync on an AMD card. Some games are just like that. I mean, it's just something we gotta live with. So that's the caveat. Now, you might be noticing, if you're paying attention, there's no screen tearing at all, and this looks beautiful. How am I doing that? Well, I'm using a Freesync monitor. This is the BenQ XL2730Z, one of my favorite monitors, in my opinion. It's not for everybody, right? Like all the professional reviewers, like Jay's 2 Cents and Linus and Joker Productions and even Brian over at Bad C Tech, all these dudes that get to see more monitors than I do. Actually, I don't know if they've ever seen this one, but I would guess they wouldn't be impressed with it because it's a TN panel. It's a TN panel, and most people hate on TN panels. All right, I like it. I've used IPS. I've used the HBU 270X or whatever it's called from Acer, the 1440p, 144 hertz IPS Predator monitor, G-Sync. I've used it with the 980 Ti. And quite honestly, I don't love it. Alright, I am a little bit distracted talking to you guys while I play. I have it on easy mode. I'm not going to die. I might miss the bad guys and frustrate you from watching, maybe, but I'm not going to die. Let me look into... Oh, yeah. I just looked in the viewfinder. Yeah, this is pretty. This is great. Alright, this is great. Here, let me switch over to the shotgun. There we go. Alright. So, R9 390, factory overclocked. I'm at 1050 for the overclock. And it's just beautiful. 2 sets away from being maxed out. So let me show you maxed out. Alright, so let's go to advanced. Let's go to custom. Let's go to ultra. Go back in. See, we're at ultra still. This game's real screwy about setting your settings. Make sure that your settings are how you want them. Because this is one of those things where, you know, instead of hitting X to apply your settings, you actually hit X to revert to default, but on top of that, you actually have to back out of the settings and tell it yes in order to enable them. Do you see what I mean? Alright, so anisotropic to 16, we should be maxed out. Alright, you got to go back in. That says high because that's as high as it goes. But everything else should be either ultra or ticked. Rendering mode is default gritty cinematic, so not really sure if those affect performance. Like I said, this is still the first night. So yeah, should be maxed out. So the game's maxed out, and we're still in the 50s, actually, right now. Still in the 50s. Ooh, that anisotropic filtering does help a little bit. It's a little bit shinier. Just a little bit. We're in the 50s for the frame rate. But as you saw earlier, even when we were still one notch below this, it was in the 40s. So don't get too cocky. Don't get too cocky, my R9 390 owners. But yeah, I mean, if you want to max the game out because maxing the game out is important to you, then sure, it will be playable. I suggest turning anisotropic filtering down to 8x and turning shadows down to high. Still beautiful. Remember, this is still the first hour into the game, but this is, look at that. I'm looking in the viewfinder right now. Look at how the light dances on the gun. This is good stuff, people. This is a good sandwich. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the main menu. We are going to reload that section is what we're going to do. All right. So game slot 1, we're going to turn the settings to 1920 by 1080p. All right. Now you get the 1080p portion of this. Let's see. Advanced. We should still be maxed out. Should be. I did not unmax it to my knowledge. So let's continue the game. Alright, so my impressions on the game, in case you're curious, in case you want to know, it's not bad so far. It feels really good, actually. You don't reload in the game. That threw me. I kept wanting to reload. So you don't reload. Look, 1080p, it's like 120 frames per second here. It won't stay that, right? We know when we go out this door, frame rate will lower. It feels good though. Okay, look, we're in the 50s now. The game is maxed out. The game is maxed out. Went into the 50s though in 1080p. Now it's in the 60s. So again, if you've got an R9 390 on launch night, the game is doing well. Now the drivers I have, I'm not sure the exact number. They're the ones that came out May 10th. The hotfix for May 10th, which is the most recent thing I can find on Radeon's website. Oh, let me go grab, there's a glyph type thing over here that lets me just punch through them. I got it earlier. Ooh, look at the lighting. All right, get this. Turn around, start punching on dudes. Rip your chest out. See, this is what I mean about the frame rate being so weird. We're playing in 1080p. And yes, it does have a higher maximum frame rate. And yes, it does have a lower minimum frame rate. But let's be honest. Even at 1080p maxed out, while the frame rate is higher, the effective situation that we're dealing with isn't that much more in the card's favor. Do you see what I mean? Because it still will go into the 50s. Oh, wait a minute. Let's do apples to apples though. Let's turn some stuff down. Let's turn shadow. Well, let's do the ultra preset. All that does is take anisotropic filtering down to 8x from 16. That still looks really good, actually. Hey, blow up. Alright, so we're in the 60s, and then I need to turn shadows down too to see how high that gets the frame rate. Because we did just have the game maxed out, comparing to 1440p being 2 slots away from maxed out. So, I do need to do a more fair comparison. This is really smooth, actually. Remember, I am using a Freesync monitor, which is AMD's answer to Freesync. It is a TN panel. It is a monitor that I enjoy very much. I don't like IPS monitors, is what I've decided. Or at least, here's the weird thing. I don't know for sure. I almost think my television is IPS, and it has never bothered me. But I don't like IPS computer monitors. I don't like IPS screens on phones and tablets. So maybe it's certain kinds of IPS. I'm not 100% sure what the issue is. I get eye strain from IPS though. This is rocking out. Alright, what we're going to have to do, unfortunately, is we need to go to the main menu one more time. Because I need to lower the settings. Alright, I need to lower the shadow real quick and see what the frame rate is at 1080p with that shadow lowered. Because my impression is there's no real reason to play this game at 1080p. Because let's say you put it on a, this is a 144 hertz monitor. So let's say you put it on a 120, 144 hertz monitor. Because it can still get a lowish frame rate on the 390, it makes me feel like it's not necessarily worth it to, shadows. Like it's not necessarily worth it to worry about the frame rate. You see what I mean? Like if it was consistently like non-stop in the 80s for the frame rate, which some games are, then it might be worth it to play at 1080. But if it's going to go into the 50s anyway, I don't know if it's worth it to play at 1080. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're in that situation when you play a game, or what have you. All right, so we're in the 80s and 90s right here in 1080. Now we're in the 70s. Remember, shadows are down 1 click. Anisotropic filtering is down 1 click. Other than that, we're close to maxed out. All right, it is in the 80s. All right, I might have to eat some crow. Might have to gobble some crow. Although that's a turkey when turkeys gobble. But you get the idea. Oh yeah, let's get my little punchy thing. There we go. I think it's what? How did I get stuck? I think it's like 2 in the morning when I record this, by the way. So if I'm talking about turkeys and gobble and everything, that's what I'm going to fall back on, is the fact that it's late night benchmarking when a game launches. Why do I keep getting stuck on the environment somehow? That normally does not happen. Okay, you know what? The frame rate has been pretty much the 70s to 100 when you do apples to apples. See, I've been spending most of my time in 1080p at that ultra preset with shadows on ultra. So, yeah. 70s, 80s, 90s. Now remember, this is one section about an hour into the game. The reason I'm using this section is because it's fairly representative of what I've seen. I've been in some areas with a little bit lower performance, and I've been in some areas with a little bit higher. And this kind of falls into the middle of what I've seen performance-wise so far. This is not shabby. Alright, so maybe you would play at 1080 if you do the... Remember, basically go to the Ultra preset and then turn shadows to high. And you're seeing we're getting pretty good performance over here. What I'll do, remember, this is first impression. This is launch night of the game. What we're going to do is we're going to come back. I just want to see what this looks like. Yeah, 1440p definitely looked better over here. I mean, why? First of all, it's a 1440p monitor. Whenever you lower the resolution, it won't look that great anyway. Like if I was on a 1080p monitor, it would probably look better than what this looks like to me right here. Okay, I'm going to go back to 1440p. Alright. Ooh, so much better. So much better in 1440p, but that's the native resolution. I've noticed that, like, when you play on a 1080p monitor, let's say you got a weaker graphics card, so you got to drop the game down to like 720p or something. Like you got like a really old graphics card and you got to do that. It looks awful. 1080p just now did not, in my opinion, look awful, but this is beautiful. This is like instantly beautiful playing in 1440p. Remember, that is the BenQ XL2730Z. Z is in zebra. And unfortunately, it is a TN panel. It is not IPS. So I like it, but again, not everyone does. To me, you know what? I think monitors are very subjective. And just because, like, let's say you've got a reviewer who you trust. Like, this reviewer has been right about everything. And then they start talking about monitors, and you want to trust them because they're right about everything. Everything they've ever recommended, you've liked. Here's the thing. In my opinion, monitors are such a subjective thing that even the best reviewer in the world might not recommend a monitor that you like. That is the problem. It is a very, very subjective thing. There's so many technologies. There's TN, there's VA, there's IPS. Sooner or later, I hope there will be OLED. I hope that will actually happen. What else? TFT. There's quite a few. Those are some of the main ones. I know TFT is not that common anymore, but I bet some of you watching this, some of you might actually have a TFT monitor. Alright, so there you go. The game is beautiful. On launch night with the May 10th drivers, which is something like 16.15.2 or 16.5.2, I forget the exact number, Crimson drivers, looks great. The only thing is, I'm telling you, VSync kills the frame rate. And maybe there's a fix. Maybe you go into the INI files and fix something. Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe there is some kind of fix out there that will make it so VSync works. And if it does work without killing the frame rate into the 20s and 30s, cool. But so far, VSync does not work, but FreeSync does. Okay, just giving you a heads up. Launch night, again, launch night, launch drivers. I say they're not the game ready drivers. This is AMD, but I don't mean that disrespectfully. But they don't necessarily do a game ready driver for every title. So launch night, the drivers that were available, 1440p and 1080p. And if things change, keep coming back to this channel and I will have the updates. I'll have new videos. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Please like, please subscribe. Please tell your friends that there's this dude that you found on YouTube who gives really, really thorough examples of how things play. And cool beans. Have a good one. I need to do some more videos and then go to bed. So have yourselves a good one. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.